Hello, Timmy Nafso here, Executive Vice President of FortisPay, and we're having a small discussion around mobile payments and how it's gaining traction in the United States and what changes that we may expect to see happen. Some really interesting facts here. Number one is that we've noticed China and their mobile market to really outpace or be much more mature than the US market when it comes to mobile payments. Today, 3/4 of payments made in the food industry in China are actually on a mobile device. So we actually have a question, well, why is it that products like Apple Pay have been so slow to come to market? And one of the things that we're actually looking at and researching is this concept that Apple Pay and Android Pay and Samsung Pay, all three of those essentially are hardware-based payment systems. Whereas in China, they really went after the chat market. So a big product in China is called WeChat, and they basically control 40% of the mobile pay market. And how that actually evolved is in a peer-to-peer environment first, before business adoption. Whereas Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and Android Pay were really trying to tie to the hardware, the device you were purchasing, and then right away trying to get into the doors of business acceptance. And as you can see, typically, business acceptance is going to be a result of what the consumer demand and consumer needs are. And the consumer, in a lot of cases, by utilizing that type of product in a peer-to-peer environment, become more familiar with it, more comfortable with it, and then often will actually shift over to business, like we've seen in China. So watching what they're doing is very interesting, and it's not to say that it's done better or worse. We're just talking about human habits here and what it is that a human wants to do. We know for sure that making a payment at a counter is not fun, right? We know for sure that people are doing everything they can to avoid waiting in a line, right, to make a payment. So things that we've seen happen in China is people are actually making a payment in advance, and they're getting some type of discount to make that payment in advance. And then when they get there, they could just pick up their food or their product or whatever that may be. Also, following the trend of what's happening in China is Amazon, right? So Amazon is in a very interesting situation because they've now launched their Amazon store, which is basically this cashless experience or registerless experience where you can go in and scan things and walk out with product. Well, that's been happening in China utilizing their WeChat Pay application. In addition, they also have Alibaba or Alipay that works in the same way. Now again, what are the differences there between what's happened here is the devices here are paid through the actual hardware versus theirs through a chat program. So look at our trend that's happening here in the United States, right? Facebook now is allowing payments, right? They're pushing to allow payments through Facebook Messenger, right? You also have this concept of Apple saying, well, hey, you can utilize iMessage, right? So everybody's trying to go into the messaging world to run payments because China's already got it figured out. And it seems to be in a way that is acting in the background, and everything's working from renting a bike to purchasing food to finding information, and they're usually using QR codes. It's a little bit different here is what we're finding, but nevertheless, it's interesting to see. So some questions that we really have and we want to answer here, do you think the adoption rate of mobile is due to the hardware restriction that people are saying, well, it's an Apple Pay type thing versus a chat device that is, or a chat app that we're super comfortable with, right? The WhatsApps of the world, the Amazon Pays of the world, the iMessage apps of the world, right? Would that encourage people to start to use payments from their mobile device? We know it's coming, we know it's gonna happen, but we just don't know how it's gonna happen. So, we're really curious, are you using your mobile phone to make payments? And if not, why? What's stopping that from happening? I could tell you that the feeling that I have on using mobile pay is that not everybody accepts it, even though everybody pretty much accepts it. It's just there are certain cards that are not approved to be on that mobile pay device. Whereas in China, they didn't have the entire Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover interchange that are being charged to the business, as an example. It was a more simple process or simple concept. So really interesting to see. And a couple other things that we'll just kind of finish off with here is that China actually has $9 trillion spent last year in mobile, while the US is trailing with $120 billion. So just to put in perspective, the amount of people that also have mobile devices there versus here. And one of the big reasons why that's happened is the cost for the technology, for the device itself, is so cheap. There's not a ton in the actual value of the device. They can go ahead and purchase one pretty quickly, and all the values in the applications that they use. And again, that's why that WeChat and WeChat Pay has been so powerful there. The masses have mobile devices, from adults to children. So really interesting to see. We believe we're gonna follow suit. It'll just take us a little while. Please let us know your thoughts and how you're handling mobile payments as from a personal perspective. Thanks for listening.